You see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world.
This is the Wrestling Matters podcast where we stand up for professional wrestling.
Here we fucking go!
Beautiful people. Yeah. Oh, hello everyone. My name is Anthony Walker. Welcome to the Wrestling Matters podcast. Sorry, I don't know why I went Chris Brown there for a minute, but hey, I'm going with that intro. I'm going with that introduction. Welcome to the podcast 161. I almost said something else there, but anyway. Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys enjoyed the wrestling this week. I've had some big news this week in terms of wrestling. There's a lot of stuff that's come out that's really, really interesting. On today's show, we're going to talk Raw. We're going to talk Smackdown. We're going to talk Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling. Just them for today, guys. No ICW. ICW will probably be back next week because of the Friday Night TV tapings, and apparently they took place yesterday, so no doubt there'll be an episode this week. Excuse me on that little hiccup there. And this week, we've got some news for you as well. Besides the Ring of Honor, the ICW, the Impact Wrestling, Raw and SmackDown, I'm going to give you a brief update of what my predictions were for Payback. Only you guys have seen Payback. If you guys have watched it, I will definitely do, knock on wood, a review this week as well for Payback, so look out for that on the Wrestling Channel, and I'll probably play that next week, so look out for that. But yeah, I'll give you what my predictions were for Payback. I'll do that later on though. Also part 3 of the Lexa Rose interview as well. All of that is to come. Whether it's part 3 or the final part, I don't know, but part 3 anyway. It's coming up today on the podcast. Also, I have Ring of Honor Raid and Impact Wrestling Raid by WWE, although the Ring of Honor thing was on hold due to Ring of Honor claiming of some tampering. I think Ring of Honor think they're in the soccer business or something. I'll get to that later on though. Also, a little TNA spoiler for you, ladies and gentlemen. Impact Wrestling spoiler, rather. Check that out, because as you could probably guess from the title of the podcast, yes, he's back, white trash. More on that later. As a matter of fact, more on that in a wee while. Also, yeah, the real reason why Mauro Ranallo was banished, from what it seemed, from WWE. Many of you people probably thinking JBL. I'm going to talk about this as best I can, but I'm not going to talk about it too much because it'll probably hit me for a low blow, if you will. I'll get to that later on. As a matter of fact, I'll get to that in a little bit, because episode 161 is on the Swerve Talk Network. You know the score. Sunday Segway, Ruthless Aggression, Max Wrestling. Check out their new episode. S&M Show, Wrestling Unleashed. The list goes on and on. You know where it's at, guys. Check it out each and every week. Don't need to say, I know I have to say this because I have to promote it and everything like that and do the best I can. Guys, you should know this by now. You will not be disappointed. I say this on here and I say this on the Wrestling Unleashed. Do not be disappointed. Go and check it out each and every week. I'm on Mondays, so check that out as well. Also, and plus there's some new stuff coming on there as well. Game of Thrones podcast and stuff like that. So be sure to check it all out. Also, Wrestling Madness channel as well. AJW Wrestling Madness. YouTube's fucking with the channel, but that's YouTube. Also, SoundCloud, Wrestling Madness podcast on SoundCloud. Look us up on Radio Big World as well. Look them up on SoundCloud. Download this show for free at WM Podcast on Twitter. Facebook.com/WM Podcast as well. Shout out to all the partners. RFW, RFPW, Raging Falcon, the list goes on and on, OSW TV and stuff like that. Also, big shout out to Mr. Rick Dara as well. Talk Brunch, check them out each and every week. Right after Raw, poor bastards, they have to do 3 hours of that show, because I tell you this right now, Raw sucked this week. Raw, check them out, Rodriguez and the crew, along with Mr. Dara as well. I'm looking to take this live. I talked to Rick this week, actually, about podcasting and stuff like that. I want to talk some wrestling, but I'm trying to get this to go live, guys. I want to do some live shows for you in the future as well. I'll probably might have to start it on the YouTube channel and take it from there, although I am going on a little program, which I'll talk about later on in the outro as well, for my Games Matter channel as well, but I'll do that later. Also, lovely people, be sure to check out Mystery Island and Wrestle Island. Facebook.com/Back to the Island, Facebook.com/Mystery Island. No, Wrestle Island, sorry, I always get them mixed up. I'll get them right eventually. I should get them right by now, actually. But check out Wrestle Island as well. And I believe it's Mystery Island because Joe Gertner's coming. That's right. ECW color commentator. Right-hand man to Joey Styles for numerous of years, maybe numerous of times, especially on TNN. Be sure to check him out as well. Get yourself down there if you're in the area. Also, check out TNT Wrestling as well. For more information, look them up on Facebook as well. And yeah, if you want more information on Joe Gertner, like I say, facebook.com/back to the island. And also throw facebook.com/Wrestle Island for more information on Wrestle Island. Right, I'm a little bit angry, and I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant here, guys. So you're going to have to bear with me, because what I saw on JD from New York's video this past week, he delivered some breaking news. Now, if I had my stuff ready in time, I would have done this for the Wrestling Madness channel, the video itself, because this hits close to home. It seems, ladies and gentlemen, this past couple of months, we've always heard the story of JBL versus Mauro Ranallo. The whole story of why Mauro Ranallo has left WWE. People blaming JBL, people claiming that JBL is bullying him and whatnot. Turned out that wasn't the case. Although JBL did bully him, but he didn't do it intent, from what I've been told, ladies and gentlemen, of what I've saw. Because playing the part of Vince McMahon was JBL, and yes, that's right, you heard me correct, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that Vince McMahon was the reason for JBL bullying Mauro Ranallo, which caused Mauro to have the depression that he's had, because he suffers from bipolar disorder, I believe it is. And it seems that JBL was doing Vince McMahon's dirty work, because it's Vince McMahon that had the issue with him. Because apparently, Vince McMahon doesn't like the way, or did not like the way, Mauro Ranallo did commentary. So instead of not, like JD from New York said, so instead of taking him to the side and explaining to him what he would like as an announcer in WWE, he decides to exploit his illness and basically bully him. Actually, have JBL bully him on his behalf. That's what it sounded like to me from what I got, which quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, is disgusting. Because I'll tell you this right now, I've had illnesses. Thankfully, by the graces of God, ladies and gentlemen, I never had any diagnosis. I wasn't diagnosed with an illness, thankfully. Because if I was diagnosed with an illness, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. That's for sure. So thankfully, I didn't do that. Or didn't have that displeasure. But I have suffered from anxiety and depression. It's not nice. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not nice. And also, it takes your confidence away, which I'm sure was the same for Ranallo. Although I did like Ranallo's little jab at Vince McMahon during a show that he was doing. I believe it was an MMA show. Some show in Japan, when he mentioned the word pro wrestler, and he turned around and went, "It's good to say that again." Little jab at Vince McMahon, because I've read Vince McMahon's list of things that he has barred, and professional wrestler is one of them. Or pro wrestler is one of them, because he's made wrestler a dirty word in his company, and he wants these performers to be that, basically, performers, athletes, sports entertainers, which to me is a crock of shit, if you ask me. But yeah, Mauro Ranallo officially announced on his Twitter that he was leaving WWE, but he also mentioned that JBL wasn't to blame, but we all know who was, right, Vince? And the fact that Vince has gone out of his way, and like I say, I'm only going on what I've read here, guys, so, it is what it is. The fact that Vince McMahon has gone out of his way just because Mauro Ranallo is not only one of the best announcers in the friggin' world at the moment, give him his due, and he's not a WWE guy, and he wasn't doing what WWE announcers are supposed to do, people like Cole and Todd, and what's his name, douchebag who's now leading Smackdown. I'm not even going to mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Todd Phillips. Just because he's not on their level or anything, he decides to fuck with him, basically. And that, to me, is disgraceful. And I'll be honest with you right now, guys. WWE was my dream job. Was I going to get there? No. But WWE is my dream job. There's no question about that, or was my dream job. But considering what's been going on, I'm kind of glad I haven't been in there. I mean, you've got Michael Cole and Todd Phillips. And that was the reason why they brought Todd Phillips in. When they turned the 3-man announced team to a 4-man announced team. That was the reason why they brought him in the first place. Because of that. It's fucking ludicrous you have a boss that treats his employees like this. Any other boss, if you have an illness, or if you have an issue, or if you have a problem with what they're doing. I mean, I'm like this at my work, at Middlesbrough. If you have an issue with what I'm doing, or if you have a problem with what I'm doing, or if you don't like the way I'm doing certain things, let me know, and I can put the damn thing right. But Vince McMahon is not about that. Vince McMahon bullies people. I mean, it's amazing to me. He's even brought back JR. But look, I'm not disrespecting JR in any way, shape or form. The guy's gone through hell, losing his wife and everything. But I still believe to this very day that WWE just brought him back out of sympathy, basically. Oh, JR, you've lost your wife and everything. Here, we'll throw you a bone. You can come back and work for us again. That's what it is. If that was the case, I don't think they'd have him back, to be honest. Yes, Undertaker requested him to do his commentary at WrestleMania, to commentate his match at Mania with Roman Reigns, but still, I still believe that. And I say that, guys, based on the way that Vince McMahon and WWE in particular, but particularly Vince McMahon, have treated JR over the years. I mean, JR had a case of Bell's palsy before, came down with Bell's palsy before. What did Vince do? He fired him. Go figure. Anyway, that was what I was told on that one. But, I mean, it's ludicrous to me that there's an employee that does this. And it all started on a TV show that's on the WWE network where JBL ranted and raved it about him, announcing that he won an award outside of WWE. And JD from New York, when I watched his video this week, I'll leave his video in the description below, and I'll definitely will leave it in the description below. He's right. It was Vince McMahon that was definitely saying that. That was Vince's work. That wasn't John's work. That was Vince's work. But John, being the team player, you could say, had to go with it. John being John. I mean, JBL's a goofball anyway, but actually, he's more than a goofball. He's now Vince McMahon's puppet, as we all know. But still, at the end of the day, guys, you've got to understand, illnesses are serious matters. You might not think they are, but they are. I mean, like I say, I've had anxiety, I've had depression. Thank to God I wasn't diagnosed with them. But still, for an employee of the caliber of Vince McMahon, or boss of the caliber of Vince McMahon, rather, to treat Ranallo like that, I'm sorry, but it's fucking disgraceful. It really is disgraceful. I've talked about this a little bit on Unleashed as well, so go and check that out as well. And I'm sure Michael had his fair share to say as well about it. But the whole thing is fucking disgraceful. It really is. Anyway, on a lighter note, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of an Impact Wrestling spoiler for you. Coming up at Slammiversary, which I'm guessing is in June, TNA on pay-per-view and Impact Wrestling on pay-per-view, there's going to be a tag team match. And you can tell from this past week's Impact Wrestling leading into Slammiversary, the build has begun between Borash and one GOAT himself, the douchebag that is Mr. Josh Matthews. It seems that the match that is planned, or the match that is going to take place at Slammiversary, is a tag team match with JB, Jeremy Borash, teaming up with Joseph Parks. Yes, you heard me correct, ladies and gentlemen. Joseph Parks is back in TNA. And you know why he's back in TNA? I'll get to that later on. Because Decay is no more. More on that later. And he will go up, and they will go up against, rather, the tag team of Josh Matthews and the one and only Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner. Yes, you heard me correct. He is back in TNA, which is kind of ironic because he was having issues with TNA and Impact Wrestling back at, lawsuits and that. But whether you agree with this or not, guys, that's the magic Jeff Jarrett has. Because it's all Jeff Jarrett's work at the end of the day. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. Jeff Jarrett is running Impact Wrestling, even though he's the owner of GFW as well. So if Jeff Jarrett's running Impact Wrestling, him and Scott go way back, so you know he's going to try and get Scott to come back for a period of time at the moment. And yes, he's a heel. Yes, he's going doing his white trash routines again and all that. But yeah, Big Papa is back. And I hate to say this because I can't stand the cunt, but I think Josh Matthews has picked a freaking damn good partner there, and a better partner than Jeremy Borash has picked. Joseph Park? Go back and look up Joseph Park on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, on Impact Wrestling. Back in the day, because this is not Abyss. This is Joseph Park, Abyss's brother in storyline, but we all know it's Abyss in a different gimmick. And back in the day, he was Ace and Ace's bitch. So I'm guessing it's Slammiversary, he'll be Scott Steiner's bitch. No question about it. But with that being said, I'm going to wrap up part 1 there, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed that as well. And I'll be back in part 2 with Raw and Smackdown. So stay tuned. If you enjoy the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out the Wrestling Matters podcast right now on YouTube at AJW Wrestling Matters. You can also check it out on SoundCloud at Wrestling_Matters_podcast. That's /Wrestling_Matters_podcast. Also, check it out on Radio Big World as well. For more information on them, you can check them out on SoundCloud and the Swerve Talk Network as well. For more each and every week of the Wrestling Matters podcast, weekly podcast that talk about the best in professional wrestling today, whether it's WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, and the list goes on and on. Only the best in professional wrestling. Why? Because wrestling matters, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to part 2 of the Wrestling Matters podcast, guys. This is Raw, Highs and Lows, and Smackdown. We're going to start with Smackdown Highs and Lows, I think. Kicked off with Shinsuke Nakamura and Dolph Ziggler scrapping to kick off the show, all setting up to their match at Backlash. Carbon copy of last week, basically, in terms of matches. So AJ Styles one-on-one with Baron Corbin, and he beats him this time. American Alpha defeat the Colognes in the Beat the Clock in 5 minutes and 5.5 minutes, I believe it was. Round about that time. I know it was over 5 minutes, I know that. Rusev petitioned for a championship opportunity at Money in the Bank. Could we see Randy Orton one-on-one with Rusev? Speaking of Randy Orton defeats Eric Rowan in a no DQ match. In another Beat the Clock challenge, Breezango defeat Ascension to become number one contenders for the tag team titles. And we'll get their match at Backlash, Breezango against the Usos. I think Breezango got the better deal out of that, because the Beat the Clock, like I said on Wrestling Unleashed, I don't agree with the concept sometimes, because it makes teams look fools. And they made American Alpha look like fools there, because I was expecting American Alpha Usos for the tag team titles at SmackDown pay-per-view. But Breezango, and hey, credit to Breezango, they've got an opportunity. Will they be the tag team champions? I can't see it happening. And the SmackDown Women's Championship, Naomi and Charlotte ended in a no contest because Natalya, just like what they did to Becky Lynch earlier on, Natalya, Carmella and Tamina came out and attacked both Naomi and Charlotte, and it's all leading to a 6-woman tag team match between all 6 women. Like I said, I don't get why Tamina's involved in this, but hey, it is what it is. That was SmackDown, guys. I will go to Raw, and I was pissed off with Raw this week, actually. Just, in my opinion, SmackDown was the better product this week, the better show. But on Raw this week, saw probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. Well, Miz and the Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose interrupted the highlight reel, and Dean Ambrose gave Chris Jericho basically a jacket in Christmas lights, basically, to make up for when he destroyed the Jericho jacket when they were feuding, him and Jericho. Raw Tag Team Champion Matt Hardy defeats Sheamus. I said that was going to take place. We had Jeff Hardy and Cesaro last week, Matt Hardy and Sheamus this week. Austin Aries and Gentleman Jack Gallagher defeat Cruiserweight Champion Neville and TJ Perkins. I'm getting sick of TJ Perkins with that fucking dab. He's the only wrestler I know that dabs when he puts a move on somebody. He puts someone in like a figure 4 leg lock or a leg lock or anything, he dabs. Hopefully not. I just wish someone would knock the dab out of him anyway, to be honest with you. Dana Brooke defeats Alicia Fox. Sasha Banks defeats Alexa Bliss via countout. Apollo Crews defeats Kurt Hawkins. Finn Balor and Seth Rollins and Big Cass defeat Chris Jericho, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. That was after Enzo Amore and Big Cass basically were jumped by Samoa Joe, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and Joe, Gallows and Anderson beat the living daylights out of Enzo. And the Intercontinental Champion Chris Jericho and Dean Ambrose defeat Miz, and the Miz ended in a no contest because Bray Wyatt came out, raised all kinds of hell. Sister Abigail, Dean Ambrose onto the entrance wall. Sister Abigail, Chris Jericho, and even Sister Abigail, The Miz, which was the beauty of this. But the one thing I want to talk about was the low point of Raw, the dumpster match. Dominated by Braun Strowman, yet you'll have Kalisto beat him in what was a carbon copy of when Cody Rhodes beat The Big Show at Extreme Rules to reclaim his Intercontinental Championship in that tables match. Fastlane, you have Braun Strowman lose to Roman Reigns. Sorry, should never have lost that to begin with. Then he doesn't win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal because Mojo Rawley won it. And now this big monster heel that you're trying to do, you're trying to make everybody, make him go out and destroy people like he did to Kalisto after the match. You have him lose in a diabolical way to a guy, Kalisto, who's probably going to be in the Cruiserweight division on Raw. The whole dumpster match, to be honest with you, there hasn't been a dumpster match since Dudley's and DX, apparently, from King of the Ring. There hasn't been one in over 17 years. I can tell you this right now, that was the worst one I've ever seen. And you made your monster heel look like a complete idiot. And after the match, he beat the living daylights and sent Kalisto to the hospital. Quite frankly, that was probably the guy who booked that in the first place. Playing the part of Kalisto was the guy who came up with that finish. Because if it had been me, I wouldn't have done that to Kalisto. I'd have went backstage, found the guy, brought him out and put him in hospital. if it was me. Because that was shocking booking. Makes no sense whatsoever. And if anybody out there can explain to me why Kalisto won that match over Braun Strowman, please let me know. Please let me know. And I'm a butt about the superhero and the heel and the villain. Braun Strowman should have won that match. He destroyed Kalisto, but yet you have Kalisto win. Makes no one iota sense. All in all, lackluster Monday Night Raw this week for me. And that dumpster match was the low point of the whole show. Made no sense. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps it up for part 2. I'll be back in part 3 here on the Wrestling Matters podcast. Stay tuned.
Wrestling fans, look no further for the most unpredictable wrestling podcast you've ever heard on the Max Wrestling Podcast, hosted by me, Dazzy Dangerously, with everybody's favourite captains, The Phoenix, The Butcher, and Mike Larkin, plus special guests, promos, and trivia.
Find out what's been going on in wrestling history as I take you down memory lane every week.
And The Butcher's Stupid Idiot of the Week. Get it!
And see if you agree with me as I choose every week's segment of the week in the world of wrestling.
The Max Wrestling Podcast is available on
YouTube, Podomatic,
Mixcloud and SoundCloud.
And the Swerve Talk Network with other great shows.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Max Wrestling UK, or go to our website, maxwrestling.wix.com/maxwrestling.
And that's the bottom line.
because we're out of time.
Yalakalikimaka.
Listen in, man.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kenny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shubs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back to part 3 of the Wrestling Matters podcast, guys, and I'm going to talk Ring of Honor in this part, since there's no ICW, and I'll talk Impact Wrestling in the next part. But let's talk Ring of Honor first. Ring of Honor this week is pretty big in terms of stories as well, because there's been some stories that have popped out in terms of talent raid. Because apparently on WWE's radar, when they got Nigel McGuinness and Steve Corino last year, they were meant to also get, from what I remember, from what I've been told, Kyle O'Reilly, Leo Rush, and Adam Cole. But Ring of Honor accused WWE of tampering. You know, like they do in soccer. If you watch soccer or you follow soccer like I do, I say soccer for the American viewers as well, but it's football for the English people or the people in Europe. If you without talking to a certain player, if you talk to a certain player without notifying the club or doing something like that, that's considered tampering with a contract and everything, and basically stealing. A lot of clubs have been fined for that. So that's what basically Ring of Honor were doing here, but WWE held off of that. The 3 people, like I said, they're on the list: Leo Rush, who was in action this week on Ring of Honor television, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. A lot of people that I talk to or that I've seen believe that Adam Cole is next in line to go to WWE. What will happen on that count, I don't know. Will he go to NXT? I'd like to see him in NXT, but he doesn't need NXT, to be honest with you. In a way, the seeds are planted somewhat because there's a bit of a fallout between Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, as was shown on Ring of Honor television, because if you watch the video, there's a video of Adam Cole firing the Young Bucks, even though it was the Young Bucks who brought him into the Bullet Club and everything. So, yeah, there's a bit of a fallout there, but it seems the seeds are planted for Adam Cole's departure, so we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. Leo Rush as well, he'd be perfect for the Cruiserweight division. And Kyle O'Reilly will be just Kyle O'Reilly. I think he'll need to go, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think he'll need to go to NXT as well. Out of the 3, if there's ever one who can jump ship to the main roster, it'll probably be Adam Cole, to be honest. There'll definitely be Adam Cole. But like I say, we'll wait and see. But that's the story I've got on that so far. That was who was supposed to go, but Ring of Honor pulled the plug on that, and WWE pulled out of it for the time being, at least. I'm sure it's not over by a long shot. But Ring of Honor TV this week saw a great segment kicked off with Christopher Daniels and Cody Rhodes, because Cody attacked Christopher Daniels after he beat Dalton Castle at the pay-per-view, Supercard of Honor. So it seems we may get Christopher Daniels and Cody Rhodes for the Ring of Honor World title because they were plugging it. They wanted it to happen. Christopher Daniels set the Ring of Honor management out when he was out in the ring. Let's make this happen ASAP. Cody wants it, but he wants it for New York, the Hammerstein Ballroom. Christopher Daniels is scheduled to face the winner of next week's Fatal 4-Way main event, which sees Adam Page, if he's up for it, which I don't think he will be because he's got his hands full with Kazarian, Silas Young, Jay White, and Jay Lethal as well. I'm probably going to be guessing it's going to be Jay Lethal. If there's a triple threat match involved with the Ring of Honor World Championship on the line, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Christopher Daniels, Jay Lethal, and Cody Rhodes. Should this go ahead, of course. But we'll have to wait and see. Leo Rush went 1-on-1 with Shane Taylor and got destroyed. But Leo Rush did show signs of why WWE want him on their radar as well. But Shane Taylor's just too big, too powerful, too strong. And like I say, is he WWE bound? We will see. And the Rebellion, Caprice Coleman as well, who helped, in a way, Shane Taylor get the victory. They also took out the Motor City Machine Guns. So I would imagine it'll be Shane Taylor, Kenny King, and Caprice Coleman against the Machine Guns and Leo Rush at some point. Josh Woods wins the Top Prospect Tournament, which I didn't take any notice of, to be honest with you, but gets attacked by David Starr. If you don't know who this guy is, look him up on YouTube. He's actually talented, and he's in Ring of Honor. And with Adam Page's help, Marty Scurll retains the Ring of Honor World Television Championship against Kazarian in a half-fought match. Kazarian should have won, but there's a story building between Adam Page and Kazarian, basically on what Kazarian did to the Bullet Club, one Adam Cole in particular, costing him the Ring of Honor World Championship to begin with. Because let's face it, the addiction royally fucked over the Bullet Club when the night of the 15th anniversary, the night Christopher Daniels won the World Championship. A little bit of confusion in a way. Matt Sydal returned and confronts Marty Scurll, and I would imagine he'll be next in line for a Ring of Honor World title or TV title shot. At least that's what I thought. But he also made his debut on Impact Wrestling this week as well. More on that in part 4, which is coming up next. So stay tuned for that.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kinny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Hey guys, this is Mike Larkin.
And this is Stevie Nicks.
To check out the S&M Show podcast and more great audios, check us out on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/MCLarkin92. And we are now on the Swerve Talk Network, Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. UK time, along with the Max Wrestling Podcast, Offshoot Radio, Sunday Segway, and the Wrestling Matters Podcast. And also follow us on Twitter at SMShow1 and at SteveNicksSM. You won't be disappointed. Peace.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 4 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. We're going to get into Impact now. Impact kicked off this week with the feud continuing between JB and Josh Matthews. After what happened last week when JB clouted Josh, apparently JB was suspended by Matthews. I don't know who came up with the idea, but anyway. Nothing really much happened in TNA, in Impact Wrestling rather, this week. Matt Sydal won his debut match against Trevor Lee, which kind of surprising. Like I said, he returned to Ring of Honor earlier on. Whether he's got a deal where he can go to Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling, I don't know. Yes, Impact Wrestling is taped, I get it. So is Ring of Honor, but, you know, kind of confusing. But anyway, EC3 explains his heel turn, which was very good. Finally, he's a heel. And vows to be champion again, but has to confront or deal with James Storm. And James Storm said EC3 should be EC bitch after EC3 said that James Storm was overrated. EC3 had the last laugh in their little brawl they had. The GFW champion, women's champion that is, Christine Von Eerie wins her match against Eva Story, or Ava Story, or Eva, is it Ava Story? I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. But the one thing I want to bring out in this, which I found interesting, was Rockstar Spud's mistake. Because he introduced Eva Story to, the following Knockouts match is scheduled for 1-4, coming to the ring, her name. And then introduced the GFW Women's Champion and said the following match is for the GFW Women's title. Why didn't you do that to begin with when you introduced Story? A little mistake there, Mr. Spud, methinks. But yeah, the GFW Women's Champion won a match, yada yada yada. The seeds were planted for Magnus' leaving, Impact Wrestling and GFW that is, are planted when Patron versus Magnus was announced by Karen Jarrett for the GFW title. We already know what's going to happen if you listen to the spoilers. Eddie Edwards attacks Davey Richards and costs him his match with Moose for the Grand Championship. I still don't get that Grand title. Bit of a high there on that one, but like I say, Eddie ain't going quietly. Khan kicks ass. Kongo Khan just dominates his match. Nothing really interesting in that. VOW, Veterans of War, made their debut. Yes, the return of Crimson as well. Or the man formerly known as Crimson, as he's now known. He's known by a different name now. And they were dominant in their debut match as well. I think this show was all about debuts, if I'm being honest with you, as well. Swoggle was running around ringside and everything and trying to have some fun with Rockstar Spud, or at the expense of Rockstar Spud, you could say. And then Rockstar de-pants him. And then you see Swoggle going backstage, basically with no pants and underwear. But that came back to bite Spud in the ass, because during the commercial break, Swoggle came out and assaulted Spud with a hammer and basically injured him after he snapped. He basically snapped and injured him. So we don't know the condition of Rockstar Spud. And I never thought I'd agree with Josh Matthews on commentary, but that was a little disgusting if you ask me. But anyway. And the main event, LAX retain their tag team titles in a street fight against the Decay. Not only in a brutal match, Abyss got speed through a barbed wire, and Homicide got involved as well. It was a brutal match, street fight, back and forth stuff, unbelievable. Go and watch it. And it also seems the end of the Decay, ladies and gentlemen. Much to the chagrin of one Abyss. That's why I mentioned earlier on that the Joseph Park gimmick is coming back, because Crazy Steve is no longer with Impact Wrestling. Because it seems that Crazy Steve is part of a talent raid by WWE on Impact Wrestling. Because it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that the 4 names that have been mentioned are Crazy Steve, who has been offered a developmental contract, which I'm guessing he's going to be heading towards NXT, or training at the NXT Performance Center and then getting on the NXT roster, I would probably imagine. The other one mentioned on the name, which has also been rumoured, but actually it's been pretty much a guarantee in a way, is Mike Bennett and Maria. It seems they're coming back and everything, and it seems that Mike is on the verge of joining Smackdown roster, from what I've been told, as well. So we could be seeing Mike and Maria on SmackDown soon. The other name was a guy who was supposed to be a part of the VOW team. The VOW tag team. Because it was rumored to be the guy who was known as Crimson in this VOW team. And Gunner as well. But obviously they've went a different route with that, because Gunner could be on the verge of joining NXT and going to WWE. So yeah. So you've got Gunner, you've got Crazy Steve, you've got Mike Bennett and Maria. The other guy that has been named as well, and he's very interested, not only with WWE, very interested in, he's also interested in going to WWE, is the current GFW champion, Magnus. That's right. It seems that Magnus could be on his way to WWE as well, which is kind of understandable and kind of forthcoming, to be honest with you, since his wife is on the roster. The wife being Mickie James. And the current GFW champion, who, well, at the moment he's the current GFW champion, but if you read the spoilers, he is no longer the champion as well, could be on his way to WWE sometime soon. But like I said, both the WWE and Impact Wrestling and Magnus, both parties are very interested in making the deal. So we could see Mr. and Mrs. James in WWE. Could they be on the same roster, on the same brand? Because Mickie James at the moment right now is on Raw. Could Magnus go to Raw as well? It definitely helped Mickie having her husband on Raw. But anyway, there you have it, guys. That is Impact Wrestling news and highs and lows of what was a very dull Impact Wrestling this week, if you ask me, apart from the street fight. Check the street fight out, guys. But other than that, very dull and flat, other than the street fight. Hope you guys have enjoyed that anyway. I'll be back in part 5 with part 3 of the Lexa Rose interview as well. Be sure to check all of that out, because it's coming up right after this. Stay tuned. Are you sick of professional wrestling? Do you want to speak your mind about professional wrestling? Well, if you like a wrestling podcast, why not tune in to the wrestling podcast where wrestling matters? The Wrestling Matters Podcast. Each and every week, I talk about the best in professional wrestling from WWE, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and the list goes on and on. Also, on the other occasions, I bring guests in as well to shoot the breeze about the one thing that I love, that we all love, professional wrestling. So join me each and every week for the Wrestling Matters Podcast on YouTube, AJW Wrestling Matters, the Wrestling Matters YouTube channel, SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast, and any other podcasts that matters. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. If you like the Wrestling Matters Podcast, why not follow the Wrestling Matters Podcast now on Twitter at WM Podcast for all professional wrestling news. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans.
I thought they were good. I mean, we couldn't help but like stare at Xavier Woods' like hair, because every WrestleMania he kind of looks like a Super Saiyan or some sort of anime character.
Yeah, shout out to Up Up Down Down too. Over 1 million subscribers, man.
Yes, but you know, when it comes to Xavier Woods, he really knows how to like, you know, get the crowd going, and he's such a creative soul. You know, he's a nerd. I mean, I'm a nerd myself, so you know, I love like-minded individuals like that. And you know, he's got his own little side thing. It's not just, hey, I'm a wrestler. You know, he's got other projects, which I think is really cool. And my mom loves Biggie. She adores Biggie, up, down, left, and right. That's like her favorite of the three. And then you've got Kofi, who came from pretty much that guy being known for avoiding eliminations at the Royal Rumble to being a part of a longest running tag team champions. Yep. You know, they all like came from nowhere, and I thought they did such a great job at WrestleMania. I mean, the wardrobe change and, you know, the hosting, they were entertaining. Yeah,
and a little tease of something later on, which we'll get to in a second. As well, a little tease that they did. But yeah, the main card match opened up with AJ Styles and Shane McMahon. Now, I love this match, and I love the fact that Shane McMahon basically turned around and said to every critic that was criticizing him or saying that, oh, this is beneath AJ Styles, he shouldn't be wrestling Shane McMahon. Basically, Shane McMahon just turned around and went, fuck you. Yeah. Because he wrestled AJ Styles one-on-one, and he hanged with the best wrestler in the company. I mean, yes, he was a crazy bastard. You know, he did these Van Terminator with a trash can and did a shooting star press, which kind of reminded me what Michael said to me when he reminded him of going back to 2001 when he fought Kurt Angle and did a shooting star press into the trash can. That kind of brought back a little bit memories as well at WrestleMania when Brock Lesnar did it and almost killed himself. WrestleMania 19 against Kurt Angle. But, I mean, what was your take on this match? I loved it because Shane basically said to the critics, like I said, fuck you. I did it. How do you like me now?
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people don't seem to realize Shane is really good in the ring, and they think, oh, because he's a McMahon kid. I mean, he's really put his body on the line probably more than his father and his sister put together. He's like kind of the Jeff Hardy of the family, where he really doesn't care, you know, what he's got to do, but he's going to do it, and he's going to have the crowd, you know, chanting either holy shit or that was awesome. Yeah. Shane is not your mediocre wrestler. You never, you know, ever watch a Shane McMahon match and hear crickets. Ever.
No. I mean, this guy's the craziest son of a... I mean, I say Jeff Hardy's crazy, Jesus. For a McMahon, this guy's completely nuts. I mean, I remember last man standing match against Big Show one time when he jumped off the friggin' staging area, the Titantron area.
I remember that.
And elbowed. He did like a fly. He took like a back bump with Tess watching him and just drove his elbow right through Big Show and won the last man standing match. All right, granted with a little help from Tess, but he still won it nonetheless. Yeah. I was like, fucking hell, what's this guy like? And then at WrestleMania last year when he jumped off the cell, and went to elbow Undertaker through the announce table and just crashed through the announce table. I'm like,
I remember that.
oh my fucking God.
The Undertaker looked up at him and he was like, fuck this shit, and he just hopped right off.
Yeah. I know Undertaker's human in that, but like I say, I watched that and thought, Undertaker looked up and just went, oh shit. Move quick. Fuck
like,
that.
Sorry, Shane.
Yeah, sorry, Shane. You're not elbowing me from that height. No chance. Mm. But Jesus Christ, I mean, he's not the best wrestler in the company. Vince McMahon sees Shane McMahon as an attraction now at WrestleMania. For WrestleMania, anyway. And he could attract like an audience, and he'd done that as well. And he definitely did that with AJ Styles. Yes, granted, AJ won, and deservedly so, kind of what... give him his WrestleMania win, because to be honest with you, and I've got nothing against Chris Jericho, he should have had it last year. Sorry, Chris. But he got it this year, and he got it at the expense of Shane McMahon. I thought they would have went with Shane, considering what AJ did to Shane building up to the match, but, fair play to Shane McMahon, fair play to AJ Styles, and fair play to both of them for the match as well, because it kicked off WrestleMania in the right way. I didn't think it was good. I mean, I was expecting a no-holds-barred type of match with it, but I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because Shane proved himself in that match to me.
Yeah.
Very much.
He didn't have to do too much.
Nope, he didn't have to do too much. He did what he could, and he did it the right way. Now, a little predictable match, but the right guy won at the end, because it was like a perfect way for him to get his revenge on him. Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, United States title. Now, this was based off what happened at Fastlane when Owens lost the title, and then the next night they made the match for WrestleMania, and Owens said, I'm going to take your US title because you cost me my Universal title, and it happened. And it was a great... I loved the match, but I loved the ending of the match better than anything, because usually you would see Kevin Owens do the pop-up powerbomb and all that, and it'd be over, or whatever other finishing move he does, and it's over like that. But he did the pop-up powerbomb, but they brought in that oh my God moment where he powerbombs him on the apron. Powerbombs him on the apron, put him back in the ring, 1, 2, 3, Owens is a champion. I mean, what was your take on it? I loved it. I loved the ending. I thought the ending was the best part of the match. Sorry, Chris.
It was, though. Like, the match was definitely good from beginning to end. I could safely say that.
Yeah. It was a predictable match for me, but, it was what it was.
It could have been better, but,
yeah, definitely could have been better, but, it was okay for what they had. And, like I said, the right guy won at the end of the day, Kevin Owens. Unfortunately, and the reason why, there's a rematch between the two now for the US title at Payback, I believe. And then after that, Chris Jericho's will have to do Fozzy.
Yeah.
So we won't be seeing him probably after Payback until at least SummerSlam, I would imagine. Because surely it doesn't take that long to do a tour. But then again, I might be wrong. I was disappointed in this next match in a way. But the right person won, don't get me wrong. Women's Fatal 4-Way for the Raw Women's title. Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Nia Jax. I can't help but think they screwed Nia Jax over in a way in this match. Or made her look like a complete idiot.
Yeah, I felt like she should have been the last one in there with Bayley instead of Charlotte.
She was dominant at the thing, she was dominant, showing her dominance and doing all that, just beating them up and showing that she's the power, the dark horse of the match and everything. And the next minute, they triple team her and then triple pin her, and she's eliminated.
Yeah, didn't they all just jump on top of her?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Triple pin, just piled on top of her.
Dope.
Yeah, they made her look like a fool, and it wasn't that didn't go down well for me in terms of Nia Jax. Hopefully, she can bounce back from that as well. I mean, but yeah, you show dominance in a match, and then you get pinned and get treated like a fool. No, that don't work. But Sasha Banks ended up getting eliminated next. And it was down to Charlotte Flair and Bayley, and thankfully Charlotte Flair lost. I've got nothing against Charlotte, don't get me wrong, but I want to see a fresh champion. And hopefully now that Bayley won the match, hopefully she can have a somewhat long title run, and they don't play hot potato with the women's title anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's what was spoiling the Raw women's title, in my opinion anyway. But what did you think of the whole thing, besides the whole Nia Jax situation?
It was still a good match. Again, I felt like Nia should have been towards the end. I mean, Sasha and Charlotte had their run. I felt like this was more to give Nia and Bayley, you know, a better shine. And they kind of just had it, Bayley and Charlotte, and it was just like, all right, we've seen this already. Can we have something else now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I really wanted them to have Nia be more active in, you know, the match, but then she just gets eliminated, and it was just like, oh.
Yeah, that was disappointing for Nia in that way. That was the disappointing part of the match. But Bayley wins, and let's pray to God they don't play a hot potato with the women's title anymore.
Yeah.
But now we get to the best part of WrestleMania, ladies and gentlemen, at least my favourite part of WrestleMania. Tag Team Triple Threat match for the Raw Tag Team titles.
Oh, boy.
Gallows, Anderson, Big Man, Enzo Amore, and Big Cass, and Cesaro and Sheamus. It was getting ready. They're all getting ready to go, but then New Day pops out and announces that it's going to be a fatal four-way match. And everybody thought, the way New Day were, because they were in the gear, everybody thought it was going to be them. But it wasn't. And after dropping the ROH World Tag Team titles the previous night to the Young Bucks, in a ladder match, I might add, they're back. The Hardy Boys returned and were in the match. And not only were in the match, they won the tag titles.
That was, I have to say, like, I have been waiting for them to bring the Hardys back for a long time. And I was so thoroughly happy. I don't know about them winning the tag titles. I'm kind of like on the fence with it, because as much as I love the Hardys, I feel like this should have been Enzo and Cass's time to win the titles.
I think, I was expecting a Cinderella story, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but then they brought the Hardys back, and I was just like, all right, that's fine. But
I had no problem with the Hardys winning it, but I mean, I'm not going to lie, I marked out the minute the Hardy Boys played, the Hardy Boys music played, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that theme song goes back to 1999 at least.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I thought they were going to play, No More Words or the other stuff that they were doing before they left. But they decided to bring the old school one out, because that is old school, that theme song. But yeah, I mean, they're back. It's incredible.
Like, my inner 90s child is, like, happy.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong.
I always loved the Hardys.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I followed them outside of where they were going and everything, with the Impact Wrestling and stuff. And my Hardy's still doing the broken gimmick on the way down the ramp, that long-ass ramp, even though they can't do it fully because of a little lawsuit they've got with Anthem and Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that WWE's lawyers are involved, Anthem are fucked, basically. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hell the future holds for them. At the moment, right now, they are the Raw Tag Team Champions. The following
right
night,
now they got a good thing going.
Yeah, right now they're the Raw Tag Team Champions. Not only was this weekend good for them, and I said this to Michael, they must have had an epic weekend, but it must have been a brutal weekend for them. Because like I said, the previous night before WrestleMania, they were dropping the tag team titles of Ring of Honor back to the Young Bucks in a ladder match. 2 ladder matches and back to back, Saturday and Sunday. They're like, oh yeah, we'll drop the titles back to them, and the next night we'll go to WrestleMania and be in another ladder match. So I don't think they really did that much. Jeff Hardy, 39 years old, still can jump off a freaking ladder, and almost kill Cesaro and almost injure Sheamus. I I mean, even he said it on the video after the thing. I'm 39 years old and I can still jump off a 14-foot ladder. But it's, oh my God. I don't know what the future holds for them because the Raw shake-up is up this Monday, so we could see them on Smackdown, possibly. But at the end of the day, the Hardys are back. And I never thought I'd say that sentence. Because there was all rumors.
The only thing I gotta say is about the Hardys. I'm just so grateful that Matt isn't known as the other Hardy anymore.
Somebody said that to me at work. Somebody said that to me at work because back in the day, it was always Jeff first, Matt second. But now that Matt reinvented himself, it seems now it's the other the shoes on the other foot. It's now Matt first, Jeff second. So, hey, credit to Matt for that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, considering all the stuff that he went through a while ago with, past relationships and stuff like that. Like, I felt like that kind of, like, putting his personal life out there like that kind of also made him look like the lesser-known Hardy, because it was just like, he
definitely reinvented himself.
Yeah.
The reinvention is there, and now they're talking about Matt now, more, if not on the same par, than Jeff Hardy. Because Jeff's the man. There's no question about that, and he proved that in the ladder match when he jumped off that 40-foot ladder. I mean, the guy's 39 years old and he can still jump off a ladder. But, like I say, it seems now that Matt's getting more respect.
Yes.
Than Jeff. Than he ever did back in the day, because it was always about Jeff getting that respect and nobody give a flying fuck about Matt. But now Matt's getting that rightful respect that, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, he deserves. And credit to him for that. As well, I mean. But yeah, the Hardys are back. And I can tell you this right now, somebody at my work's very happy, I know that. Because she's a huge Jeff Hardy fan. So, at the end of the day, it's cool to see the Hardys back. Now we go from the best moment of WrestleMania to, in my opinion, what was the low point of WrestleMania. In my eyes. And I'm not talking about Cena asking Nikki to marry him. Because that was what it was. And to be honest with you, that wasn't a low point for me. That was just basically I couldn't give a flying fuck. But the mixed tag match was disappointing.
I mean, I was hoping to see a little bit more out of Maurice.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing, though. They made her look like a complete tit in this match. That's the thing that pissed me off. They made her look like a complete fool, like she didn't have a clue what she was doing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't she a Divas champion at one point?
Yes, she was.
And they look
That's why I'm completely with you on this 100%. Like, they really did make Miz and Maurice look like a couple of jokes.
Yeah. I mean, I have my feelings about Miz anyway, but Maurice, if I remember correctly, she's a 2-time Divas champion. If I remember correctly. But at the end of the day, she
look like a schmuck.
Yeah, at the end of the day, she's been a Divas champion. But they made her look like a complete idiot, like she didn't have a clue. Like she's never been in the fucking ring before. I look, I don't care what happens with Miz and everything like that, because I respect Miz for what he's done and everything, but there has been times I want to punch him right in the mouth. But surely, after the match, him and Maurice, mainly him, must have went backstage and pulled their friggin' hair out with that. Because how can whoever booked that match or agent that match must have lost his fucking marbles, or he or she's marbles, if it's she back there, agent or anything like that. But they must have lost their marbles because they made Maurice look like a complete tool. Because she's come back. She's all she's done. She's come back is manage the Miz. But what really pissed me off is she's been a Divas champion. She knows her way around the ring. She knows how to wrestle. But like you correctly said, they made it look like a joke. It hurts my brain. It really does.
It hurts my feelings because, I grew up watching Maurice. And I was just like, yeah, I'm finally going to see Maurice back in the ring. She's going to school Nikki. She's going to make her look dumb. And all of a sudden, it was just like, wait, why is Nikki making Maurice look like she can't wrestle? What is going on here? Why did Nikki outwork Maurice?
Yeah.
Why?
I tell you why. Look who her boyfriend is. Actually,
I'm really hoping that's not the case. I really am, because
it's not the first time. It's not the first time it's happened.
I'm really hoping it was Maurice's choice. Like, look, I just want to, I'm just doing this just to kind of, I'm just doing it for my husband. I really don't want to do too much or whatever. I'll if she chose to make herself look like that, okay, fine, but.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Let's hope that's the case anyway. But let's face it, it wouldn't surprise me if John Cena had something to do with that, or the fact that Nikki's fiance is, whether we like it or not, the top guy in the company. But you've got to understand.
But that's why I like the whole conflict between the two teams, because the Miz made it look hilarious the way he was making fun of John Cena and. The Total Bella show, Cena's house rules number 400 and something. It was just hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, beautiful build-up to the match. There's no question about that. Beautiful build-up to the match, but the match was a clusterfuck. It was poorly done. And it was the downfall of WrestleMania in that respect. I mean, all right, you always get the one match that is the shit. This one was, in my eyes. I'm sorry.
And then the proposal, and then the proposal, kind of awkward and forced.
Yeah, yawn. That was what it was. You can say good things about it, you can say bad things about it. At the end of the day, it was what it was. That was the kind of a regurgitated version of Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man, except them two did it better. At WrestleMania 7, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was what it was.
But I feel like that whole ending with John proposing to Nikki was exactly why the Miz did the freaking, the spoofs, because it's stuff like that he felt the need to spoof you guys. It looked forced. You mean to tell me she didn't know when he grabbed the mic that he was gonna propose to her at WrestleMania? It looked so obvious.
Yeah, and it's still and they still continued to do it on SmackDown. The whole Total Bella stuff and everything like that. But, yeah, the match was what it was. It's just a downfall, to be honest. And I did not like that match one bit. Speaking of matches I didn't like, although it was better than the mixed tag match, I'll say that. Seth Rollins, Triple H, non-sanctioned. I didn't like the match.
I liked it.
I liked the whole ending, because we all know Seth Rollins was going to win, and I think Triple H may have been a little bit pissed off the fact that he lost to his own finishing move, but that's what you get, Triple H, for giving Seth Rollins your finishing move in the first place.
I just thought it was hilarious that Stephanie went through the table.
Yeah, that was the best part of the whole match. Because a non-sanctioned match to me is, you do what the fuck you want. Basically, you get the weapons, you get everything, you get a ladder, you get a table, you get whatever's available to you, you get it in and you use it. For majority of that match, it wasn't a sanctioned match. It was just a straight up wrestling match. Because like I said this with Michael, Triple H worked on the leg too much. Because that's what it was. I mean, he wrestled Seth Rollins down and wrestled that leg and worked on that leg too much. If he wanted to do that, he should have got a weapon and used a weapon instead. But if, like I've said many times, if you want to go to a non-sanctioned match, if you want to see a good non-sanctioned match, go to SummerSlam 02. Go to SummerSlam 02, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. That's a non-sanctioned match. That's how a non-sanctioned match should be. This wasn't a non-sanctioned match. Credit to Stephanie for taking that bump through the table. Because that did not look good, from what I saw. That did not look good at all. And like I said, Seth Rollins won the match with Triple H's own finishing move, and that's what you get Triple H for giving him your finishing move in the first place. Or mainly that's what you get for banning. That's what you get for mainly banning the curb stomp. Huh? Or I don't know if it was you, probably Vince, but that's what they get for the curb stomp being banned. But what was your take on it? We all knew Seth Rollins was going to win. What was your take on
Yeah,
that?
he had to. I thought it could have, been a little bit more gritty. I mean, there was like a part where you could kind of see Seth Rollins like hand Triple H the freaking sledgehammer, because one of the first things he grabs and literally slides it right next to Triple H, and it looked really too obvious. I feel like there could have been a lot more than just, Triple H working the leg and stuff. I mean, I felt like he worked on it too soon as well. Like, he should have just waited towards the end, kind of as a last chance, like a last resort type of thing. The one thing I don't like is that Stephanie doesn't get involved as much, or doesn't even interact with the fans. Like, you're the daughter to the CEO of the company. Interact with the fans. It's what managers do. Like, I noticed that a lot of the superstars really don't interact with the fans as much anymore, and it kind of, it bothers me, because that's one of your major roles, is to help encourage the audience to either have your back or hate you. Like, as a manager, that's one of the most important roles that you have, is to get the crowd either behind you or against you. And if you're not interacting with the crowd and you have your back to them the whole entire time, it's like, why are you even there?
If you enjoy the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out the Wrestling Matters podcast right now on YouTube at AJW Wrestling Matters. You can also check it out on SoundCloud at Wrestling_Matters_podcast. That's /Wrestling_Matters_podcast. Also, check it out on Radio Big World as well. For more information on them, you can check them out on SoundCloud and the Swerve Talk Network as well. For more each and every week of the Wrestling Matters podcast, weekly podcast that talk about the best in professional wrestling today, whether it's WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, and the list goes on and on. Only the best in professional wrestling. Why? Because wrestling matters, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the final part of the Wrestling Matters podcast, guys. That about wraps it up for today's show. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Wrestling Matters podcast episode 161 is on the Swerve Talk Network. You know the score, guys. I said it at the beginning of the show. I'll say it again. Check them out each and every week. Sunday Segway, Max Wrestling. The list goes on and on. Check them out, guys. Also, Facebook.com/Back to the Island. Facebook.com/Wrestle Island for more information on the Mystery Island and Wrestle Island. At WM Podcast on Twitter. Facebook.com/WM Podcast. Give us a like. Download it for free on SoundCloud. I almost said Sunday Segway there. SoundCloud.com/Wrestling_Matters_podcast. Check that out. Also, Radio Big World as well. Look them up on SoundCloud. Check us out and listen to every show that you listen to on the Wrestling Matters channel as well. AJW Wrestling Matters on YouTube, or just look us up on YouTube. Also, I want to just give a quick of what my predictions were for Payback. Now, you guys know the whole results because you've seen Payback like I have as well. Like, I will be seeing it as well. I would have seen it by this time as well, so check it out. But this what would have been my predictions for Payback. Miz and Finn Balor didn't really care. Endo Moore and Big Cass beat Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Hopefully, Austin Aries becomes the new Cruiserweight Champion. Bayley to retain. Hardy's to retain against, I almost said Samoa Joe there, against Sheamus and Cesaro. Kevin Owens to retain against Chris Jericho for the US title. Rollins to get his revenge on Samoa Joe. I hate to say this, but Orton to beat Bray Wyatt. And Braun Strowman to hopefully beat Roman Reigns. Sorry to any Roman Reigns fans out there, but Braun Strowman needs it. You should never have lost to Roman Reigns at Fastlane, but hey, it is what it is. But anyway, guys, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Wrestling Matters podcast, episode 161. Tune in next week for 162 on the YouTube channel Wrestling Matters, SoundCloud.com, and Radio Big World as well. At WM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook.com/WM Podcast. My name is Anthony Walker. Wrestling matters, and it should matter to you. And I am proud to be a wrestling fan. Peace out, y'all.